Imagine an empire so vast that the sun never set on its territories. An empire where power, art, and literature converged to create one of history's most brilliant eras. Welcome to the Spanish Golden Age, a time of glory and paradox that would forever change the course of human history. Picture yourself in the year 1492. The world is about to witness the birth of the first truly global superpower. As Ferdinand of Aragon and Isabella of Castile joined their kingdoms in marriage, they laid the foundation for a unified Spain that would dominate the world stage for nearly 2 centuries. But this isn't just another tale of conquest and power. This is a story of cultural renaissance, where the quill proved as mighty as the sword. While Spanish galleons sailed across the Atlantic, bringing untold riches from the New World, something even more valuable was flourishing at home, a golden age of art, literature, and intellectual achievement. From the sun-baked streets of Madrid to the bustling ports of Seville, Spain transformed into a crucible of creativity. Artists wielded their brushes to capture the spirit of an age, while writers penned works that would echo through the centuries. And at the heart of it all was a simple question: what happens when unlimited ambition meets unprecedented opportunity? You might wonder why we call this period golden. Was it the endless streams of gold and silver flowing from the Americas? Perhaps. But as we'll discover together, the true treasure of this age wasn't found in Spanish coffers. It was found in the extraordinary explosion of human creativity and innovation that would help shape the modern world. If you're fascinated by the rise and fall of great empires, if you love stories of artistic genius and cultural revolution, and if you're ready to journey beyond the pages of history books, then you're in for a treat. Join us as we unravel the magnificent tapestry of the Spanish Golden Age from 1492 to 1659. Before we dive deeper into this incredible story, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Modern Age Chronicles. Hit that notification bell to ensure you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes about the fascinating world of modern history. Now, let's begin our journey through Spain's most glorious era. The story of Spain's Golden Age begins with a wedding that would change the course of history. Picture this: a young Ferdinand of Aragon and Isabella of Castile, 2 ambitious rulers who saw beyond their individual kingdoms. Their marriage wasn't just a union of hearts, it was the birth of modern Spain. Now, these weren't your typical newlyweds. Isabella, known for her fierce intelligence, had already outmaneuvered her own brother to claim the throne of Castile. Ferdinand, equally shrewd, brought the maritime strength of Aragon to the marriage. Together, they would prove to be one of history's most formidable power couples. But unifying Spain wasn't as simple as saying, "I do." The Iberian Peninsula was a complex tapestry of different kingdoms, cultures, and religions. In the south, the Moorish kingdom of Granada had stood for centuries as the last Muslim stronghold in Western Europe. Ferdinand and Isabella made it their mission to change that. Here's where things get interesting. 1492 wasn't just the year Columbus sailed across the Atlantic. It was also the year when Granada finally fell to Spanish forces. Imagine the scene: the last Moorish king, Boabdil, handing over the keys to the magnificent Alhambra Palace, ending nearly 800 years of Muslim rule in Spain. Speaking of fascinating connections, let me share something remarkable about that period. You might know Miguel de Cervantes as the author of Don Quixote, but what many don't realize is that he wrote this masterpiece while imprisoned in La Mancha. Yes, you heard that right. One of literature's greatest works was penned behind bars. While Cervantes crafted his tale of the delusional knight and his faithful squire, he wasn't just telling a funny story. Hidden beneath the humor and satire was a clever criticism of Spanish society itself. Through Don Quixote's misadventures, Cervantes was actually holding up a mirror to the contradictions of Spain's golden age, the gap between grand ideals and harsh reality. But back to our unification story. Within just a few decades, Spain transformed from a collection of rival kingdoms into a unified powerhouse. From the Mediterranean to the Atlantic, Spanish influence began to spread. And when Columbus returned with news of lands across the ocean, it opened up possibilities that even Ferdinand and Isabella couldn't have imagined. This was just the beginning. Spain was about to embark on an adventure that would create an empire spanning continents, where, as they would soon proudly claim, the sun truly never set. A new chapter in human history was about to unfold, and Spain was holding the pen. When Columbus's ships first touched the shores of the New World, no one could have predicted how this moment would transform not just Spain, but the entire world. Within decades, Spanish explorers and conquistadors would push deeper into the Americas, discovering civilizations they had never imagined existed. Think about this. In less than 50 years, Spain went from a newly unified kingdom to controlling an empire that stretched from Manila in the Philippines to Mexico City, and from Peru to the Netherlands. Spanish galleons crossed the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans, creating the first truly global trade network in human history. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. Deep in the mountains of Potosí, in what is now Bolivia, the Spanish discovered the largest silver deposits the world had ever seen. The mountain became known as the mountain that eats men, due to the harsh conditions faced by native workers. Every year, tons of silver were extracted and shipped to Spain aboard treasure fleets, massive convoys of ships protected by armed galleons. Here's a fascinating detail few people know. These treasure fleets were so crucial that their routes were planned according to weather patterns and ocean currents, creating what we might call the first global shipping lanes. The Spanish studied these patterns so carefully that many of these same routes are still used by ships today. The wealth flowing into Spain was staggering. Picture entire ships filled with silver coins and gold artifacts. In fact, so much precious metal entered Europe that it caused the first documented case of worldwide inflation, the famous price revolution that would transform the European economy forever. But all this wealth came at a terrible cost. In the Americas, entire civilizations were devastated by disease and conquest. The Aztec and Inca empires, with their magnificent cities and complex societies, crumbled before Spanish steel and smallpox. Meanwhile, in Spain itself, this river of silver created an illusion of endless wealth. Why develop local industries when you could simply buy whatever you needed from other countries? This is where we see one of history's great ironies. Spain became so rich that it became poor. While Spanish kings could build magnificent palaces and wage expensive wars across Europe, common Spanish people often struggled to make ends meet. The empire had become like a massive pump, drawing wealth from the Americas, only to spend it all on wars and luxury goods from other European nations. Yet despite these contradictions, or perhaps because of them, this was also a time of incredible cultural and artistic achievement. The same ships that carried silver across the oceans also carried ideas, languages, and cultures, creating the first truly global exchange of knowledge and art in human history. Spain had achieved what no other European power had done before. It had created a global empire where, quite literally, the sun never set. But as any student of history will tell you, the brightest flames often burn the fastest, and the seeds of decline were already being sown in the very foundations of this magnificent empire. While Spanish ships were crossing oceans and conquistadors were claiming new lands, something equally remarkable was happening back home. The Spanish Golden Age wasn't just about empire building. It was witnessing an explosion of literary genius that would influence writers for centuries to come. At the heart of this literary revolution stood Miguel de Cervantes, a man whose life story reads like an adventure novel itself. Before he became the greatest writer of his age, Cervantes was a soldier who fought in the Battle of Lepanto, where he lost the use of his left hand. He was later captured by pirates and spent 5 years as a slave in Algiers. Talk about a life well lived. But here's where the story gets even more interesting. The masterpiece we know as Don Quixote was actually born in a debtor's prison in La Mancha. Imagine that, one of the greatest novels ever written, crafted behind bars. Cervantes took all his life experiences, all the harsh realities he'd faced, and transformed them into something magical. Don Quixote tells the story of an aging nobleman who reads so many chivalric romances that he loses his mind and decides to become a knight-errant. Accompanied by his faithful squire, Sancho Panza, he sets out to right wrongs and fight giants, which are actually windmills. But here's the brilliant part. Through this seemingly simple tale, Cervantes was actually holding up a mirror to Spanish society itself. Think about it. Don Quixote, the idealistic dreamer who sees castles where there are only inns, represents the grand aspirations of imperial Spain. Sancho Panza, practical and down-to-earth, represents the everyday reality of common Spanish people. Together, they're the perfect metaphor for Spain's golden age, a time when soaring ambitions often crashed against hard realities. The novel was an instant hit, and not just in Spain. It became the world's first international bestseller. People across Europe couldn't get enough of the mad knight and his sensible squire. In fact, it's often called the first modern novel, pioneering techniques that writers still use today. But Cervantes wasn't alone in creating literary magic. The theaters of Madrid were packed with audiences watching the plays of Lope de Vega, who wrote over 2,000 plays in his lifetime. Yes, you heard that right. 2,000. The poetry of Luis de Góngora and Francisco de Quevedo was recited in courts and taverns alike, while the mystical writings of Saint Teresa of Avila touched souls across the Catholic world. Before we continue our journey through the Spanish Golden Age, I'd love to hear from you. Did you know that Cervantes wrote his masterpiece in prison? If you're enjoying this dive into history, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Modern Age Chronicles for more fascinating stories. And tell us in the comments, which character from Spain's Golden Age intrigues you the most? Is it the ingenious Cervantes, the dreamy Don Quixote, or the practical Sancho Panza? As Spanish power reached its zenith, the country's artists and architects were creating works that would leave visitors breathless for centuries to come. This wasn't just art for art's sake. It was a bold statement of Spain's power, faith, and cultural sophistication. Let me take you to the royal court in Madrid, where Diego Velázquez was revolutionizing portraiture. His masterpiece Las Meninas wasn't just a painting, it was a puzzle that still captivates art lovers today. Imagine walking into the royal palace and seeing this massive canvas where the artist painted himself painting the royal family, creating a mind-bending game of perspectives and reality. Here's something fascinating. Velázquez included a mirror in the painting that reflects the king and queen, making viewers feel as if they're standing exactly where the royal couple stood centuries ago. Then there was El Greco, the Greek master who made Toledo his home. His elongated figures and mystical visions broke every rule of conventional painting. People thought he was mad or had problems with his vision, but El Greco was actually creating a new artistic language. His masterpiece, The Burial of Count Orgaz, combines heaven and earth in one spectacular canvas, with Toledo's nobles standing right beside angels and saints. Speaking of Toledo, let's talk about Spanish architecture. The cathedral builders of the Golden Age were creating spaces that would make you feel tiny in comparison to the divine. These weren't just buildings. They were mountains of stone that seemed to defy gravity. The Cathedral of Seville, the largest Gothic cathedral in the world, took over a century to complete. Legend has it that when the planners first proposed its size, they said, "Let us build a church so large that future generations will think we were mad." But the Spanish Golden Age wasn't just about grand gestures. In the quiet halls of the University of Salamanca, something equally revolutionary was happening. The School of Salamanca was challenging traditional ideas about economics, law, and human rights. These scholars were the first to develop theories about international law and human dignity that we still rely on today. They even questioned whether Spain's conquest of the Americas was morally justified. Imagine doing that in the middle of imperial Spain. Here's a detail that few people know. When the scholars of Salamanca heard about the atrocities being committed in the Americas, they developed the concept of universal human rights, arguing that native peoples had the same fundamental rights as Europeans. This was revolutionary thinking for the 16th century. The architecture of the university itself reflected this intellectual ambition. Have you heard about the famous Frog of Salamanca? Hidden among the intricate carvings on the university's facade is a tiny frog sitting on a skull. Students believed that finding this frog would bring them good luck in their exams, a tradition that continues to this day. These weren't just isolated achievements, they were part of a broader cultural revolution. In cities across Spain, new palaces, churches, and universities were rising, each one a testament to the country's wealth and ambition. The Spanish Baroque style, with its dramatic flair and emotional intensity, wasn't just an artistic choice. It was a perfect expression of an age when Spain saw itself as the defender of faith and the center of the world. The legacy of this artistic and intellectual explosion still surrounds us today, from the dramatic paintings in the Prado Museum to the soaring spires of Spanish cathedrals, from modern international law to economic theories. The fingerprints of Spain's golden age are everywhere, if you know where to look. As we reach the end of our journey through Spain's golden age, we find ourselves reflecting on an era that was truly unlike any other in history. Like Don Quixote himself, Spain dreamed impossible dreams, and for a while achieved them. Think about it. In less than 2 centuries, a unified Spain created the first truly global empire, produced some of history's greatest artworks, and revolutionized literature and thought. Yet within this same golden era lay the seeds of decline. While galleons brought endless streams of silver from the Americas, common Spaniards struggled to make ends meet. As magnificent palaces and cathedrals rose toward the heavens, old industries withered and died. But perhaps that's what makes this period so fascinating and so relevant to our own times. The Spanish Golden Age teaches us that true greatness isn't just about power or wealth. While the Spanish Empire eventually faded, the cultural achievements of this era continue to shine brightly. Don Quixote still makes us laugh and think. Velázquez's paintings still take our breath away. The ideas born in the halls of Salamanca still influence how we think about human rights and international law. In many ways, we're still living in the world that the Spanish Golden Age helped create. When we talk about global trade, international law, or the power of art to challenge society, we're building on foundations laid during this remarkable period. Even the way we tell stories was forever changed by the adventures of a mad knight and his practical squire. Here's a final thought to ponder. Perhaps the real legacy of Spain's Golden Age isn't found in the grand empires or the mountains of silver, but in the enduring power of human creativity and imagination. In an age of conquest and power, it was the artists, writers, and thinkers who created something truly timeless. If you've enjoyed this journey through one of history's most fascinating periods, please take a moment to like this video and share it with friends who love history as much as we do. Subscribe to Modern Age Chronicles and ring that notification bell to join us on more adventures through the modern era. From the rise and fall of empires to the birth of revolutionary ideas, we're here to explore the stories that shaped our world. What aspect of the Spanish Golden Age fascinated you the most? Was it the vast empire where the sun never set, the literary genius of Cervantes, or perhaps the stunning achievements in art and architecture? Let us know in the comments below. We love hearing your thoughts and perspectives on these incredible historical moments. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Spain's Golden Age. Until our next historical adventure, remember, while empires may rise and fall, great art and ideas live forever. See you in our next video.